as long as you have not the capacity to be human in the way of having the capacity to look at every life form with a sense of tenderness, as long as you have not achieved your healed inner child, that's the way that you're going to have bilateral integration and use your mind by wielding your own awareness, attention, intention as well, kind. And those are those three pillars of the way to use the mind. Some people call it mindfulness. I'm learning all about this with Daniel Siegel. Thank you. Consciousness and change. So to be consciousness, your flexible, adaptive, coherent, energized, stable human being, embodied brain. I'm trauma and attachment informed, besides being a divine feminine mystic who already knew about all of this without any of the explanation. But you know, it's good to be able to say why mind is everything. Oh, and we recently looked at Patrick Tiahan. He's a childhood trauma survivor, healed in healing, I always say. He's a therapist, and he shared a 1 minute short of how when he began his therapy to heal his inner child, he learned about how any crises, his therapist informed him, can be dangerous or an opportunity. So when you know how to use mindset, which is everything, you know how to work with the trauma charges and the voices, the thoughts that come up from your left mode. Now, remember that obviously the divine feminine is very important. So if what comes up is not within your window of tolerance, here's where we have structural dissociation as well as clinical dissociation. Okay, so what you understand, and I'm going to use Patrick Tiahan again because he shares one of his biggest regret because he did not have a child-centric environment. So he had childhood trauma. He had to reparent himself, and then now he's a therapist who helps others do the same. So he shares very well what projection looks like. And he shares his biggest regret is that his childhood trauma years made him unkind because of for never having maintained the innocence of what is here. Some of us, we get lucky. I got lucky. Thanks, Mom. I don't have a inner child that ever disrupted. And I also have the miracle of Jesus. I have to say that, and God. So I will share where I come from. But my left mode is the one that decided what to do with the words, forgive them for they do not know. Blessed are those who believe without seeing, turn the other cheek, and the part that we did discuss about how speaking one's own direct truth, yes, with self-awareness. And that means I know, like Pacha, that every person has a heart. So I'm not going to speak in a way that will offend you. I will do my best to be in a harmonious relationship. However, if you are an unkind human being, which is what's going to come up when you're maladaptive child behavior, the 0-1-year-old attached panicky, attachment wounds, 3 to 7 shame submissive, defectiveness, heartbreak, shame cycles that people do inner critic and then outer critic. Oh, and let's not forget the fucking, the drinking, the drugging, and any type of self-soothing mechanism that is not for your inner or outer well-being, and that we see in movies being flaunted. Ever since I was a teenager, I didn't really notice it until I began to get older. I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't smart. It's called unhealthy. Now we have a lot of different ways other people bring this stuff forth. I'm just going to bring forth the prefrontal cortex of my brain, and thanks, Mom, learning moderation. So here's where staff, when we looked at this card, it's all about you learning how to use your mind in a beautiful way, by the way, and equanimity. So secure attachment, differentiated self, healed, never broken inner child. So I have no shame at all, not even a little bit. And that's why I speak my truth with no filters. So somebody gets offended and they're projecting at me, I will say I'm sorry because my mother taught me how to share the floor and say you're sorry. And then I will learn to recalibrate and move away from the adaptive child who brought me their low self-esteem, indirect communication, passive-aggressive, and their own implicit bias. And they decided that I need to basically speak in whatever way they want me to, which is not going to happen. And there are many paths to being able to be your inner child. Luckily, for those of us who are functional adults, so divine feminines, we meet divine masculines that have fun talking, is what I'm going to get to right now. Okay, so we meet those who are coherent because their heart and their mind, and so they walk and talk like the crow. You get to meet the divine masculines who are actually divine masculines, and I'm going to use that word because everybody is a energetic imprint of it, but you're not going to manifest the actual essence of the divine masculine if you're not a whole divine masculine, which means that you know how to speak your inner child, right here, and to see yourself. So that means that whenever you and I are interacting, you care about the herd member. So it doesn't mean you hide anything. No, you actually speak the truth, which is really nice. So when you meet divine masculines who know how to have, what I'm going to say is, actual balls, it's because they know how to share from the heart and the throat. I'm not going to read it all. And the exchange is because we're actually both empowered and part of the earth, Gaia, the, remembrance. We don't forget that we're all human. So being decent is really the word I want to use, but there's more to it than that, because any adaptive child knows how to make an excuse for why they're going to avoid you, not tell you things, chit-chatter in their brain about stuff, right? Okay, so yeah, empowerment is your ability to show up fully and completely. You can't show up fully and completely if your inner child is not present. So that means that you can only show up in a place of delight when you delight in yourself, which is why self-compassion is very important. Okay, so let's see what I wanted to particularly discuss. The oversoul and the oversoul plus that roots. Okay, rooting in your wholeness and having basically the experience of picking up on all of you is not confusing for divine feminine, because we are grounded though in the wholeness of being a human. So when you are overflowing with humanity, which is because you don't lose yourself, you're not on Elsa's journey. You're a 3-year-old, so divine feminine knows she's a 3-year-old. She's not going to go shaming, blaming, faulting, or revenging. Revenge, envy, jealousy, spite, these are all emotions that indicate the need to go on a either personal development journey and learn about your inner world and handling emotions in a way of window of welcome, expanding it, or good therapy so that you can work with whatever 0, 1 to 8 that you have, which is very serious business. Because the danger is the part about people who do revenge, envy, jealousy, they have pent up and they don't speak. Yeah, it's really sad. So some people, I learned this from Tara Brach, they can end up in a vindictive, spitting of vengeance type energy when they hold on to resentment and things that they don't address. And that's where people who are in the human suffering love narrative, they actually have committed to that. We're not going to talk about that one, but my heart goes out to all of them, and then I surround them with good therapists. When you are divine feminine, one, you know that anyone who is not yet a whole divine feminine and divine masculine does not have bilateral integration, so they're not going to be a functional adult. They don't know how to speak a truth, which is where with your oversoul, you don't have sagas, no twin flame saga, no soulmate saga, because you're a divine feminine, so you have clear access. But the clear access, again, it's because you don't forget that we're brothers and sisters, one big ball of energy. However you want to pose it, a divine feminine never forgets where she comes from. That's because, though, I got lucky. I got a whole 3-year-old heart with a 1-year-old, and I know how to be my own safe haven and secure base. And when I got to begin to see what divine masculines do, because divine masculines are the left with all the bullshit stuff. They don't move into the present. They don't get curious, open, accepting, or loving. No, they make assumptions. And when you're kind to them, they begin to make sure that they say, no, they're not kind. So when you're divine feminine, what you see is the divine masculines that are not their wholeness, they just project the unkindness because they don't heal the inner child. They go off on an Elsa journey, and whenever they meet actual healthy self-worth potential partners, for example, they are not going to choose you, and we're not going to make a big deal about that. We're going to notice the healthy self-worth divine masculines will choose a healthy self-worth divine feminine. That's because they have wholeness here, so they know what it means to be a part of a herd, and that many paths don't mean one is better than the other. No, they know how to talk about emotion. This is the point. They know how not to hide what they're thinking. They learn how to be grown-ups, and I learned that since teenage years. Direct truth is very easy when you are self-empowered because your inner child is whole and you're not afraid to be you.